I saw character traits that I'm like, that's me.
I'm feeling you. Like you said, you saw parts of you and me. Well, to be honest, I see parts of me.
Yeah. Okay, guys, we're talking to you guys about Clifton and Joy, and just going to talk about their connection. I actually do like their connection. I mean, it's actually nice and refreshing to see, because he's always stated that he has Joy as number one. He stated that he likes Joy. If he moves mad in the last few weeks with someone else, we're all going to be in arms. But I want to talk about something specific in terms of their connection. Something just that I noticed, again, it's not necessarily to say this is it. This is more of a case of like being aware and kind of just using it as a blueprint and a template for other people. When people are making consistently sexual innuendos, especially in certain particular periods of time when you're having a conversation, you do need to be wary. And so I want to talk a little bit about that on this particular review. So if you're new to the channel, do me a favor, like it, share, subscribe, click on the bell button for notifications of the uploads. And for those of you who are returnees, you already know what it is, baby. You got the minerals. You got the minerals. All right, stay hydrated because the streets out there are hot. Okay, all right, stay hydrated, baby. Let's get the intro going and we'll get the conversation flowing.
Little black girl, you know what time it is.
Boom. All right, cool. So just talking about Clifton and Joy's connection. I really did like their connection because, you know, I love the way that they handled the coconut fiasco. Okay, if you want to see it, we'll go back quickly. Just to handle it. I mean, it was fantastic to see.
I have been waiting to spend some alone time with Joy. I finally got it. So, unless my heart stopped in my throat, closed completely up, we're going to keep on with this date. No.
So, you know, love those strong words. You know, a woman will love a man who's intentional and who desires her, and vice versa for us men as well. But, you know, he's intentional, it seems. He seems like he wants Joy. He wants to be around Joy. He consistently keeps saying that Joy's number one. He keeps saying that he's enjoying the connection with Joy. And so, you know, it's nice to see on Ready to Love. And they're still being open and still dating other people. So, you know, this is what we wanted to see from last season that we didn't get to see, because people close themselves off immediately. So it's good to see this happening. And also as well, they did get deep. They did have some conversations that did get deep. You know, we got to see, Joy share a little bit about her father figure.
Completely up. We're going to keep on with this date. You know, what was your childhood like, your family life?
I mean, I was raised by a single dad.
That's really dope.
Now, this conversation got a little bit deep. She started speaking about how her father passed, but she spoke about how she was raised by her father. And the question also just sprang up to me straight away when I heard was, if you were raised by a father and you didn't have a mother around per se, I wonder what kind of effects that did have, right? Because even two-parent homes, I know there's effect of having two-parent homes when someone's not emotionally available. I wonder what kind of effect it had on Joy, not having a mother figure around, but just having a father figure around. You know, did she pick up more masculine traits? Did she have to learn how to be more feminine? Was that something that just came natural to her? Like, you know, what is it? You know, even the way, and then I started to think about the way she flirts, and I said, I wonder if that's what she picked up from being in a more masculine energy, because flirting is one of those things that, of course, women do it well, but being able to, you know, there's a certain way that some people do it. You know, when you look at men and some of the way they flirt, they can exude a certain energy, and I was wondering, oh, maybe she picked up a bit of that from her father figure. Maybe she picked up from her environment. I don't know. I was just kind of running through my mindset, my thoughts, as in, I wonder where this came from. Not saying anything was anything. I'm just saying that my mind was thinking about different things. And that's how I think about when I hear about people's story. I'm always thinking, where does this come from? Where does this come from? And then she goes on to say as well about, you know, the difficulty of having to lose her father and not crying immediately and having to grieving a year or so later, or a little bit later on. And this is where their conversation kind of interchanges, where he also shares that, you know what, he didn't also cry either. You know, he had been through it. It was tough. It was emotional. You know, he didn't shed a tear. And we can watch a little bit of that as well and get a little bit of perspective there as well. That would be interesting. Let's have a look.
Once he was gone, everything fell apart. It crumbled. I mean, I didn't know what to do with myself. I never shed a tear. I couldn't. I felt like I needed to be strong for everybody else.
Now, what's important here is that he shared, you know, I felt like I had to be strong. And us men, we go through this a lot. We do feel like we have to be strong because we are the men. And we think that there is no time to emote. There's no time to grieve. There's no time to show emotions. But you're a human being you're a human being that has emotions. And so you need to grieve. You need to have time to cry if that's what you want to do. You need to have time to really feel. When we don't do that and we close ourselves off and we become numb, what can happen, and then we just move through life, is that I said this before on emotional availability. You begin to emotionally leak, and this is going to lead me to my actual conversation about what we're talking about, his sexual jokes, because I always talk about people that joke around a lot in general. Sometimes what you'll find is there's a dark story behind it as to why they joke so much. Will Smith shared a lot of this stuff in his book. He shared a lot of his thoughts in the book. He shared a lot of the nuances of the fact that the reason why he became so funny is because he was trying to appease his abusive father. So there's oftentimes a deep story behind why the humor comes out. It's one of those, I won't even say deflection tools, but a way of coping with some of these deeper emotional things that are happening to an individual. And so if he's making a lot of sexual jokes, and he makes a sexual joke pretty much everywhere. Like, Carmen said nice arms. He said, Carmen said nice muscles. And he said, which muscle are you talking about, right? He talked here, he makes a sexual joke a little bit later on. You're going to see it in a second. There isn't a time we don't see, apart from talking to AP, who's probably brand new, and he probably didn't get that vibe. That's probably the only time I haven't really heard him say a sexual joke. And I was starting to think, okay, so I'll play a little clip and you see what I mean in a sec.
He did shed those tears at some point.
Not years later, right? Because I internalized it. I put it over here. You know what I mean?
I didn't really.
So he says, obviously, here, this part was a bit unclear whether he meant years later or he said not even years later did I cry or did I shed tears, right? Because the way she asked the question, she knew, did you shed tears or not? Because she knows herself, if you don't do that, you're just moving around like a walking zombie. You're dead. You're not really alive. And what that means is you're not alive for other people because a part of you is closed off. And that part of you that is needed to really emote and be available for other people. Or you might be there for other people, but then you're not there for yourself. And you got to look after yourself. At the end of the day, to give your best self to somebody, you've got to have healed and gone through certain experiences and been able to triumph through them and move through them and be able to deep some of the stuff that's happened to you so that you don't react out of pain unaware, and so that was such a key point where she did say, but you have cried before. What she was really trying to say is, but you have grieved, you have kind of began the healing process of this, because if you haven't, I got to be careful. And she's rightly so.
Pour out until maybe about like a year. When my dad was, transitioning.
And again, her showing emotion here does not mean she's not over it, does not mean that she's not healed or not healing. Tears are going to happen because it's an emotional event. Tears are not necessarily a sign that the person's not over it. No, not at all. When we remember certain experiences, we tie that to emotions, and so that's how even actors work. When they wanna get into a particular scene, they'll remember certain experiences, and they will use it as a catalyst to gather the emotions to present to us on a screen. A good actor can do that. Trust me, I knew.
He knew that I was fine, that everything was okay, but it definitely wasn't until later that that
it hit you. Yeah.
Hit like a
ton of bricks, right?
Yeah.
So up until this point, the conversation is really intense, but really important, and it was deep, and it was emotional, and it was needed, and you can tell it's emotional and running deep because of the way that Joy's face is, first of all, but also as well her hands. And I always tell you guys, this position here, a lot of people do this, and it becomes it's like I have to, and you see this, people do this a lot when we're moving our hands around our body a lot because we're trying to hold ourselves, right? We're trying not to break free emotionally, or we don't want to break down, or we don't want, we're trying to, the conversation's got tense. So we're feeling it, but our body's feeling it and our body's responding to it. And this is why I said the body can lie to, the body can betray even the mind. The mind will tell itself, don't cry, don't do anything, don't show any emotion. And the body itself will show traces of the emotion that you're feeling. So it plays through, right? Let's listen a bit more.
It's nice to have someone who actually can relate to you in your pain, in your loss. It wasn't just a conversation. It really was.
And again, this is why it's so important to have these kind of conversations with people that you trust and you care about, because it really was something that it becomes a safe place, right? You've gone through something. He understands, she understands him. They are able to speak on something that they both experience, however tragic and horrible it is. They can both speak to it and they can both understand. A bit like how Walter and Sabrina had at the very first day they met in the garden, right? That joint experience allows them to connect in a unique way to other than other people, right? Let's play a bit more.
Sharing something that for the most part we try not to talk about it because we don't want to feel the hurt, and I appreciate that. I don't want to ever have to stop.
And again, absolutely right. Again, what she's talking about, you know, you don't want to ever, you know, the fact that she can actually share that information with him, you know, because it's a tough conversation to have, right? And these are the kind of things when you are trusting of one another, when you've built emotional intimacy, when you've built mental intimacy, when you're building intimacies with one another, and you get to a trusting place, this kind of information comes out. It will come out because a person wants to share the burden. The Bible says share your burdens, right? It helps to take the load off. You know, when you get able to share some of these deeper things, some of these doors, I said about another video, that we open doors slowly when we're getting to know people. And when we trust them, they have freedom to have a key to open these doors. Or rather, we open these doors and say, hey, look, you can explore this area, right? When we trust. That's why trust is such an important thing as well. Let's go a little bit deeper. Here we go.
That's me.
I'm feeling you. Like you said, you saw.
Let me go slightly back. Sorry. This is really important.
And I felt safe. I saw parts of me in you. I saw character traits that I'm like, that.
Now, she's still sharing her heart by saying, you know, I feel safe. I feel comfortable. You know, I see character traits of me in you, and, you know, etc., etc. She's still being quite deep and just kind of sharing the burdens of her heart. And this is where I was like, oh, Clifton, behave yourself.
It's me.
I'm feeling you. Like you said, you saw parts of you and me. Mm-hmm. Well, to be honest, I see parts of me in you.
Now, of course, Joy laughed it off, but I think Joy laughed off a lot of things. She laughed off Laverne's bum. She laughed off Tori saying kidneys. Joy's got a very good way of deflecting from a difficult situation. She knows how to skirt the issue. So I can't now trust the laugh there. I'm just going to be honest. I can't. I'm not saying that she even thought anything bad of it, actually, to be honest. She probably didn't even think anything bad. I'm more making a cautionary tale for anybody out there. These are key moments, right? When people are trusting you with deep insight, deep thoughts, I'm comfortable, I'm safe, I'm feeling loved, I'm feeling, you know, cared for, it might not be the best place to drop a sexual innuendo, right? Because he actually had to go out of his way to do it. It wasn't even straight after. It was like, literally, she said, you know, I felt safe, I felt comfortable, I see character traits in you, I see parts of me in you. And it cut to him, and then he took a little pause, and he said, you know what, you said about parts. He had to go back. Oh, you said about parts. I see certain parts of me in you. It's like, but that's just my personal thought. I'm not saying that's the absolute truth. Joy might have loved it. I'm just warning the rest of us. We might not get the same leeway. You know, in these intimate moments, keep it intimate. Don't ruin it with a joke just yet. Let the moment settle and let it go past, and then you can drop a little joke. But you know, I don't know if it had got past that point yet. It was just an observation from me watching that. But again, I loved how they handled the coconut allergy situation. I love how they're having these conversations. I love how they're connecting. I love the fact that we're seeing some genuineness, I believe, on both sides. I think they are genuineness. And he's placed it as number one. So the only thing that can stop them now is if Eric gets into Joy's ear, or if Dakia gets into his ear, then boy, it's a different story. But for now, I think they're pretty settled. You know what I'm saying? I think they're pretty settled. So if you have a different opinion or you have different thoughts, let me know down below. Comment down below. I'm not trying to hate on Clifton, by the way. I'm just being a little bit cautious. Like, share, subscribe. Click on the bell button for notification uploads. We appreciate you guys.